This is Attorney Bo Jonas. I've developed an estate planning system, and I wanted to tell you a little bit about how I got started in that. I've been estate planning for many years. I've helped a lot of people out. But the way that I really got into it goes back to when I was a kid. I was actually a pretty fearful kid. Even though I was a really happy kid, I was really fearful. And as I thought about it, I realized that my first memory as a young kid was when I was about 3.5 years old. I remember sitting in the living room of our house one morning next to my sister. We were sitting on this brown 80s couch with a wall of mirrors behind us, pretty typical of the 80s. But I remember firemen walking through the house, walking in and out. And my baby sister, who was 6 weeks old, had died. She died of SIDS. And I didn't understand the ramifications of that at the time. But as I grew up, that affected me pretty well. I was always really scared of loss, scared of something happening to my family. So I remember, every night I would go around and I would check all the doors. I would actually touch the doorknobs to make sure they were locked. And I remember all of my prayers as a kid were about nothing bad happening to my family. I don't think that's normal for a child, but that continued on even into being a young adult. Although I was a pretty happy kid, this fear never went away, and it got worse when my dad had to go to Iraq during the Gulf War. He ended up in Iraq for a couple years on and off, and I remember just having this pit of fear in my stomach the whole time he was gone. I was really worried about my sisters, actually. I figured I could try and figure out how to take care of myself, but I was always afraid for my sisters. Fast forward several years, I had graduated law school. I'd become an attorney, and my dad had started working in other things, but he told me that he had to go back to the Middle East, to some dangerous countries. And that same fear returned to me. And I was really concerned about it. At this point, being an attorney, I knew I could take care of myself. I knew I could take care of my family. But I was still afraid. My dad was supporting one of my sisters. So I wanted to figure out how to help, but I really didn't know how. And I remember I woke up in the middle of the night one night. I couldn't go back to sleep, and I remember walking out of my bed, trying to miss the floorboards that I knew creaked so I didn't wake up my wife, and I walked out of the hall into the living room, and I thought, and I just got this epiphany that you can't ever get rid of the scary things in life. I mean, you can't just get rid of death. You can't get rid of loss. You'll never be able to completely eliminate that. But what you can do, other than just mitigate it and check the doors, make sure they're locked, take care of your health. But what you can do is you can plan around it to lessen the sting. And that was a big epiphany to me. And so I knew that I had to figure out a way to do that for my dad at the time. And so I figured out how to get him an estate plan. But I wanted to bring this to other people. I wanted to help others. But I didn't know how to do that. I as a lawyer, had written many wills, but I didn't know how to share that message. And the bigger problem was just the paradigm around the legal world. To get a will, you've got to drive down to an attorney's office. You've got to sit in their expensive office with all that furniture. You've got to take the time, answer their questions, wait a while for the will. All of that results in time, which is pretty inconvenient, and extra costs. And I wanted to figure out a way around that. I didn't know how to do that, but then I came up with a system where it's done entirely online. Still drafted by an attorney, still that high quality will with protections put in there by an attorney who understands your situation. But you no longer have to go somewhere. You no longer have to actually sit with the attorney. You can do the whole thing entirely online. It saves a lot of money, and most importantly, it saves a lot of time. And the end result of this program was that I've been able to bring a lot of people the peace and comfort that an estate plan gives. Selfishly, for me, I've been able to find a lot of joy in this. I've been able to find a lot of peace in my life. I've actually put these same plans in place for my own family. So the same protections that I do for my clients, I've done for my family, for some siblings, but for my wife and my own kids. I've got 5 kids. They're all pretty young, and making sure that they're protected if something happens to me or my wife is the most important thing for me. So I've actually written a book about it, and put together some courses, and I'm excited to share those with you.